Recording.
Well, now you join. You have to press the. Hello. You press the one. There is one join Zoom meeting. Is there no? One link is there no? That you press it. Good. Yeah, I was talking like, I hope you are all doing good. Madhusri, how are you?
Good, sir. Thank you. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Like, I'm back to work since last 1 week. Uh, I mean, that's what I want to discuss today. Like,
What can I do that? Good to know, sir.
okay, I'll discuss on that. On while speaking on risk management, which is the apt topic for me to tell what happened to me. And when we don't have a proper risk management and risk controls, how life can turn. Okay, if you don't have risk controls, the residual risk can hamper your life till your deathbed. Okay, but still, God's grace, I'm fine. I'm doing great. Uh, Actually, I got WhatsApp message. Couple of them are joining. They are back from their workplace. We'll wait for a few minutes. Okay, then we'll start. Like today, I'll see like most part of the risk management. I'll try to complete. Okay, Leela, hope you are doing great.
Yes, sir. How are you? How you are? How is your health? How is your son health?
Yeah, everyone is good. Like, oh, yeah, it happens. Like problems come, all of them come at once.
Yeah. We have to go on with the problems with the resolutions. This is the risk category in our life.
Yeah, this highest risk, like
Yes, unexpected.
unexpected without proper risk control measures.
Exactly.
Okay, we'll wait for a couple of minutes. Like Majid and couple of them said like they'll be joining. Of course, I touched on this topic on ISO 14971 risk management in the last session, but that's very long back. I want to recap on that. Okay, because I told you many a times, like risk management is something like the fifth pillar of, okay, like our Indian constitution. It's like the fifth pillar of the medical devices. Like you may have ISO 13485, you may have regulations, country specific regulations, you may have clinicals and all that stuff. Okay, device life cycle, talking of. But end of the day, without risk management, I mean, it will go haywire. If you don't have proper controls on the risk, okay, everything will be a disaster. And second thing, as is told you in the earlier discussions, risk is linked with every section, okay, of the technical documentation, starting from your whatever you call it's GSPR in EUMDR or essential requirements in IMDR. From that, design and development. Risk starts with design and development, you know it pretty well. Okay, risk is also integrated in production and production activities. Risk is risk further propagates into QA/QC. Okay, the clinicals, usability engineering, biocompatibility or biological evaluation. Everything has to be integrated to risk. Okay, every activity or every because the principal core idea of risk management is that whole of the product life cycle, okay, has to be weighed under risk. Okay, risk management. You need to gauge every time, okay, in the life cycle of the product, the risk, what is the risk it is carrying. Okay, from your clinical evaluation, even your IFU, contains a lot of risk, not directly, indirectly. It talks a lot on risk of the devices. Okay, even of late there is a lot of emphasis on your PMS, post-marketing surveillance, where Madhu is much aware of that. Your PMCF or your field safety corrective actions, okay, or your trend analysis, or your PSURs. Okay, all these are interconnected, okay, like what we call production and post-production activities. Okay. Uh, Production and post-production activities. The post-production are like what we said is the PMS activities. Uh, and risk is interconnected with that, and it loops back. Okay, once you have complaints, CAPA and all that stuff, uh, and a lot of customer feedbacks that are coming in. Okay, predictive analytics that come in based on the risk. Okay, that again loop backs to the risk management. I mean, the design and development, which I'll show once others join. So it's a vicious cycle. Like it start with risk management, ends with PMS. Okay, and come backs from PMS into the design and development. So it's a loop. It's a circle. Okay, and in this circle there will be a lot of sections that has to be interconnected, integrated, interlinked with the risk management. Okay, as I said, any section you take, you need to talk about risk in that particular section. Just tell me one section where you doesn't talk about risk. If you haven't talked about risk in that particular section, okay, I think your documentation will go under serious scrutiny, and you will have a lot of comments, okay, a lot of non-compliances or NCs. So if you want to make a good, perfect documentation, okay, just blindly remember this. In every section of your document, talk about risk management, how you are controlling the risk. I mean, from QMS I talk, like I was talking to you in the last sessions, like risk is not just regarding the device or the product. Our risk management is not just linked to the device or the product. I mean, the right way to call as per vocabulary or terminology and definition is risk is not just linked to medical device, because we are good in writing risk management files for the devices or the products. Okay, but mind you, and you need to be careful here, the modern era, I mean, I think I told you this some time back. You know, ISO, I mean, US FDA 21 CF for 820 is now integrated or merged with ISO 13485. Okay, we have the standard, globally accepted standard, QMS standard, that is ISO 13485 2016. Okay, with lot of amendments later. And I think I also told to you in 2026 or at the end of this year, we may have the new edition or the new version of ISO 13485 2026 that could be coming. Okay, because every 10 years, after every decade, you'll get it. You'll get the new edition, because the previous one was in 2003, but it took 13 years to have the next version. Okay, and before 2003, it was in 1993. ISO 13485. Okay, the first version of the ISO 13485 exclusively for medical devices came in 1993. The second one came in 2003. but I don't know why it happened, like, why it took another 3 years more. Okay, the third version came in 2016. It has to come in 2013, but it was delayed. I know the reasons, like, I'll touch upon it. And the fourth one should be, I mean, I'm expecting that because there's a lot of revisions, draft documents coming up, and I have strong evidence to tell why it will be coming in 2026, maybe end of the year. So in parallel to that, okay, even the risk management is also going lot of, I mean, it's undergoing a lot of changes, amendments. So we may see the new document coming in or the new version coming uh, the sooner or later. And my point why I'm saying this now is like risk management or risk is not just regarding, not about all about the devices. Risk management is also about your QMS system. Okay. When I say QMS, you need to integrate risk management, okay, with the ISO 13485. You need to talk like in ISO 13485, what are the hazards? Okay. What are the hazardous situation? What are the risks? What are the risk control options? What are the residual risks? Okay. So in quality management system also, you will have lot of risks or hazards. So now in the modern era, okay, we have risk management which very specifically talking about the device on one hand and about the QMS on the other hand. Of course, as I said, we are very versatile or very good in writing about the risk management regarding the devices, but not so good in understanding the risk management in the QMS. Okay, we call that as quality risk management, QRM. So we need to work on these both because I told you like once the US FDA 21 CFR 820, which is the QMS, basically it's called as QSR, Quality System Regulations, that's the QMS of US FDA or the US, is now integrated with ISO 13485. Okay, it happened, I think, in last December. No, this 2026 February it happened. Like both of them are now integrated. There is no need of separately documenting QMS for US separately or ISO separately. Now both you can combine and merge and do the documentation, QMS documentation. Of course, for FDA, US FDA, you have some additional sections, okay, where you need to do some gap analysis. Maybe if I can correlate, it's like, see, for ISO 13485, ENISO 13485, there will be a little bit of difference. Okay, when you do the gap analysis, there will be 10 or 12 new SOPs or new QSPs where you need to write. And you know it pretty well that ENISO is regarding the ISO 13485, particularly for Europe. Okay, if you want entry into Europe markets, okay, or get CE marking, it is inevitable and it is mandatory that you should have ENISO. ENISO 13485 2016. Similarly, for the US FDA markets, okay, if you want entry into US FDA market, your facility should have, okay, it is called as QMS or Quality Management System Regulations. There it is called ENISO for Europe. Okay, in for US it's called QMSR, Quality Management System Regulations. Of course, there is a lot of similarity with of the USFDA QMSR with 13485. To my knowledge, there is some 10-15% gap. If you do the gap analysis, that once you fulfill that gaps, okay, it's like you will be having one unified QMS or QMSR that is serving both for ISO 13485 and also for the USFDA. And if you can cater, okay, make some changes, additional documents that are required for Europe. Okay, even you'll have ENISO 13485. Something like you'll be catering to Europe, you'll be catering to US, and you'll have the global standard as ISO 13485, which caters to other rest of the countries. Okay, so I better urge or request you to work on, okay, working on the unified documents that serves for both Europe, US, and ISO 13485. That's a global standard that caters for rest of the world. I'm not talking here about MDSAP. Okay, MDSAP is something entirely different. Okay, MDSAP is like, of course, in MDSAP you have US. Okay, and you also have ISO 13485. That's a basic foundation in MDSAP. Of course, we studied that in length almost for a month or two on what this MDSAP is. Okay, MDSAP is built on the foundations of ISO 13485. And it has US, because we have integrated US, US FDA 21 CFR 820 in MDSAP. We have integrated RDC, that's the QMS of Brazil. Okay, TGA, that is the QMS of Australia. Okay, Health Canada, HC, and PMDA Japan. So there you have 5 countries with ISO 13485. Okay, the foundation is there with 13485, and on the foundation are these uh, five layers built. Well, like you can call them 5 apartments built on the foundation of 13485. And I told you like there will be another 2 countries which are going to become a part of MDSAP. That's South Korea and Singapore very soon. Like you have 7 countries with single audit. You can get your facility registered, okay, for the QMS in 7 countries with one single audit. That's on MDSAP. But here I am talking of a very different scenario on aligning the Europe, US QMS systems with 13485. Okay, the 3 can be unified and you can have a single documentation instead of having 2-3 documentations. This is the best way to cater to the European markets or US markets or other global markets. And the other side is you have MDSAP. Okay, you have choices. Of course, we say like MDSAP is something talking about the global quality requirements. Of course, ISO 13485 is the global standard, but when you compare with other countries' QMS, always there will be some gaps. Like when you compare with Australia or Brazil, Japan is very similar to ISO 13485, Japan QMS, that is PMDA. Of course, Health Canada QMS is almost a Xerox or a twin of digital twin of ISO 13485, not much difference. There will be a lot of difference you see in US FDA 21 CFR 820, that is the QSR, that is the US FDA QMS. NVISA, you'll find the Brazil, NVISA, that's RDC, that's their QMS, and TGA Australia. These three countries you'll find some differences compared with 13485. You can do the gap analysis and you'll understand it very categorically, like what are the key points where certain standards, certain country specific quality standards emphasize more. Okay, like US emphasizes more on design and development. Okay. And we saw that Brazil, they emphasize more, that's RDC. They emphasize more on risk management. TGA Australia emphasizes more on the microbial contamination, GMP and all that stuff. Generally, GMP is a very old concept. It's gone, like nobody is talking of GMP certification of late except some labs, but not in manufacturing units, because now we have well-versed system much better than GMP, that's 13485. So why I'm talking on this, on the QMS sides, on one side the ENISO, the US FDA, that's the QMS or Quality Management System Regulations, aligned with ISO 13485. Okay. On the right hand, we have MDSAP, now with 7 countries aligned with ISO 13485. Whatever quality system, quality management system you take, these all are aligned with risk management. Okay, risk management holds, okay, such a pivotal role. It has such a pivotal role. Without risk management, there is no quality management system. Okay, your quality management system is null and void without risk management. Of course, you know, we studied 13485 even during internal auditing. One of the important pillar, okay, perhaps the most important pillar is the risk management, and that too throughout life cycle of the device. It's not risk management ends with design and development. No, it carries throughout the life cycle of the device, your production, post-production activities. Okay, it comes in your purchases. Okay. Of course, all the clause that are there in 13485. Okay, it comes in your QC quality requirements, it comes in your clinicals, it comes in your IFU, it comes in your usability, it comes in your PMS. Okay, could be any of the sections of the QMS, like said, could be PMC or PSU or customer feedback, trend analysis, okay, complaints, COPPA, all that has to be linked with risk management. Okay, with this background understanding on risk management, we'll start this session. I know a couple of them has to join, like Soman, Somnath, and Masjid said they will be joining. But however, we'll continue because some of this stuff, some of this I discussed in the last sessions only, but since there is a long gap, in almost like 7-8 weeks, we haven't discussed. I thought better to give a recap. Okay, not like the serials in this generation, but just to make you bring you back into what is risk management. And if you ask me what is the important standard or the important section in, whether you say in the regulatory documents or in the quality documents, Okay, I have no other option to say like it's the risk management. Okay, if you have very good, okay, ample understanding on risk management, how to control the risk, mitigate the risk, reduce the risk or reduce the residual risk as low as possible. I think the patient safety is assured. Okay, if you're not good in risk management and you don't really understand what this risk management is, how to approach it, what are the risk controls, actually, how in a device, how a particular harm or hazard situation can turn into a risk, how to analyze the risk, how to evaluate the risk, how to have risk controls. Okay, and to also understand what is the effectiveness of the risk controls. It's not like just having risk controls is the end. Just say like I have so many risk controls, my residual risks are acceptable or they are very low. That's not the case. Like you need to work on the effectiveness of your risk controls. Because in most of the cases, though we have a lot of risk controls, okay, or risk mitigation options to control the risk, but still, end of the day, you see a lot of complaints, okay, and complaints that are catastrophic, or deaths, or mortality, morbidity, okay. Then what happened to the effectiveness of your risk controls? Which means that you haven't either worked on the effectiveness of your risk controls or your risk controls are not effective. Okay, you need to go back to your drawing board and see like why these are happening. And anybody who works good on the risk management file or working on the risk management report. See guys, we are talking about medical devices and we are talking about human lives. Patient safety is at most. So we are not talking like some other devices or some automobiles or something where if there is a loss, it could be material or money. But here, if something happens, it's a human life, it's a patient life. They could not, I mean, I'm not seriously talking about mortality or catastrophic events. At least some morbidity will really hamper uh, the patient's life forever. So we need to focus on risk management. As again, I said, I have captured some of them in the last session, but still I'll rewind on that. Okay, with emphasis on all the sections in the risk management. Okay, starting from how to write a risk management plan. Okay, a risk management report. Okay, because risk management as such is a process. It's not a standalone document. Again, I'm saying risk management is not something, it's a standalone, which you write it at, it's not something that is not linked to any other document and you write it once and that's done. No, it is a live active document. Till the device exists, the risk management has to be upgraded day in, day out. And why I said it's not a standalone document is it is integrated with all other, okay, as I said, all other sections of the, whether it's QMS or the devices, starting from design and development. Okay, till your production and post-production activities. So in that view, we will work on that. Like I said, what is the risk management plan? How to write the risk management reports, how to integrate them. Actually, you'll find something bit I don't say controversial. It will be a bit interesting. Like you need to uh, rework on certain things. Why? Because when you come to EUMDR regulations, I said like there will be some contradictory statements that come out from EUMDR regulations and what ISO 14971 is talking about, which we'll discuss. Because ISO 1497, the risk management document, is a very accepted standard. It's harmonized with EUMDR or harmonized with almost all regulations. Okay, whatever it is harmonized with all global regulations. Okay, ISO 14971 2019. As I said, there will be some new revision that will be coming very soon, but there are a lot of amendments that happened even for 14971, that is addition of amendment A11, which is very important, but that addition amendment A11, what we call the annexures, are linked to UMDR regulations, not for all other country regulations. It is linked to UMDR regulations specifically that came in, we call it as A11, which came in 2021, and we also call them as ZNXs. These ZNXs will be a bit contrary to what basic ISO 14971 standard says. That also we'll look in, and we'll work out on what is risk analysis, risk evaluation, what are these residual risks, okay, how to work on these residual risks, effectiveness of your risk controls, okay, acceptability of your residual risk. It's not like you can't accept any residual risk as you like. Okay, that's a problem with the earlier old regulations. People used to say that that's fine. There is some residual risk that can be accepted. No, that's not the case. Okay, you need to bring residual risk as low as possible. We'll discuss on that. Okay, and overall, we need to discuss on overall residual risk. Of course, end of the day, the bottom line, the story is on benefit risk analysis. Okay, you need to show what are the benefits, discuss the risks. And I always say, it truly amazes me. Some of the regulations or some of the standards, how they are interlinked. Yeah, that's the beauty of medical devices. Like how they are interlinked with clinical evaluations. Okay, and how these clinical evaluations, the residual risks are linked with clinical evaluation report, and this clinical evaluation report in turn linked with IFU. Okay, and also how they are interconnected with usability engineering. I think you will really appreciate this interlinkage process. Okay, and how lively this document will be. As I said, and bottom line on the other side, we will be discussing on PMS, how the risk management is linked to PMS, post-marketing, post-production or post-marketing activities, and how it comes back, okay, and loops back into design and development. Okay, with this, yeah, good that Majid joined us. Actually, I'm waiting for you, Majid. And Aman is also there, Pranita is there. Yeah, I think Akanksha is missing. Yeah, I know like a couple of you attend very regularly. Yeah, Mother is always there. So before I uh, move forward, like just few basic MCQs or like a pre-test questions, very simple. It's not that I'm going to grade you or you grading for whatever you have attempted, just to uh, make yourself understand. They are very simple questions, make you understand what is risk management. After the session, we'll have another test, like how you understood after the session, like how the session has gone, how you really got the concepts. Okay, you may understand, may not understand other sessions. Of course, I mean, sorry for that statement. I would have put that statement. Of course, it's important that you need to understand other sessions, but importantly, you need to understand these sessions more, okay, more pertinent and more in-depth than the other sessions. I know 13485 is important. We haven't started the country-specific regulations. And we haven't discussed mainly on the global unified global regulatory structure. Okay, that will be very interesting, like how you can unify global regulations, like how the quality management system is now become unified, or it is become global quality systems, because all of them are getting one now with uh, integrating of the FDA, ENIS4, IS4, and with the advent of MDSAP, now you have a global quality system. And we will also discuss on a global regulatory system. I'm pretty sure that there will be some disparities between inter-country specific regulations, but that's easy to understand, like at what length we need to go and where to stop it, or how elaborately we need to discuss on that. As I tell you every time, the most exhaustive, elaborately discussed regulation or uh, regulations or perhaps the UMDR. Okay, so very well structured with good guidance documents. Of course, there are some issues, some conflicting statements in the regulatory documents. But end of the day, when you compare all global regulations, you feel EUMDR regulations are much better, even compared to the USFDA. USFDA has a very different structure of regulatory pathway. Either it's 510K, different 510Ks, or 510K exempt, or 510K, or the PMA. Post-marketing approval or pre-marketing notification, that is 510Ks. You have different 510Ks. There the system, I mean, the regulatory pathways are different. UMDR, it is again different, but when you do the documentation as required for the UMDR, I think you are almost there fulfilling the global regulatory pathways. Okay, at least once in your lifetime, or not once, in early part of your career, do the UMDR documentation, whether it's IVDs, medical devices, or IVDs, or SOMAD, or any device. Okay, you'll find it quite useful later as you move forward in your career. Or you want some assignments to work on UMDR, let me know. I have some clients who are working on that. I can give you some sections of it, whether it's GSPR or any of the sections, like on technical documentation, like Pranita has done some, and Pranita's team that's in MTZ have done some work. Of course, the most interesting part will be on the CER, again on the PMS, then on the risk management, and integrating all this stuff. finally to get the fruit of it. That's the IFU. I know many of you don't know how this IFU originates and how to write a IFU. But that will be quite interesting. Okay, Venkatesh, you know what is IFU?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, I'll get back to you. Just wait.
It is like information use like
Yeah, yeah.
like
Can you see this document? I mean, can you see my screen, the document which I shared?
yes sir.
So attempt this quickly. Post your answers in the chat. Make it uh, in next 10 minutes. Please do it. No, they are
Uh,
very simple questions. All of you, please do it.
okay. Sir.
Yeah, I think you would have done it. Okay, fine. I'll stop sharing this. Yeah, these are very simple, like the kindergarten questions in risk management, very basic things. But later we'll understand some complexities in risk management, how to address them. Importantly, as I said, now how to interlink this risk management, uh, okay, with the rest of other sections that you do in. Okay, because I mean, we learned this in our internal auditor training. If you don't control the risk, okay, I mean, in as an isolated case, there are non-compliances. Can if you're not controlling the risk, when it is so isolated to one section, what happens is that it spreads into all other departments and it becomes systemic. Like when risk becomes systemic without any proper risk controls, okay, eventually it leads to some of the worst case scenarios, okay, mainly in moderate to high risk devices are based on the risk categories that could cause devastating effects to the patient. So the idea is to contain risk, okay, wherever it is possible through risk controls. You are not containing risk. I said no, it spreads and it will become systemic. Any systemic risk, okay, mainly I know like it will have very devastating results, but if you look at from the regulatory or auditor point of view, or during the audits, if the risks are found or non-compliances because of this are found everywhere, okay, you there's a chance that you may you get a major NC or what we call grade 4 or grade 5 NC, and there is also a very good chance like they may temporarily suspend your certification. So you need to be very careful that you need to contain your risks wherever it is possible. Okay, mitigate them, control them with effect, and trying to understand the effectiveness of the risk controls. It's just not like, okay, I'm doing this QC test, it's a risk control process. Okay, or I'm going to mitigate the risk with this QC or with documentation. and doing the test on sampling basis. Okay. Okay, I have an IFU. I'm giving IFU, the user errors or user risks are controlled. That days are gone. Telling you guys, that days are gone where you need to just say I've given IF. Just I had the IFU, I've given training, I have risk control options, all that stuff. As I said to you many a times, like it's not the reactive approach of risk control or combating the risk. It's more proactive approach, okay, of trying to understand these risks. The proactive approach is also a gone story. Maybe last 2 years or 3 years, we are talking of proactive approach of trying to control the complaints or the risks and all that sort. Maybe 10 years back, we were working on reactive approach. After we get a complaint, we keep working on that, trying to do a root cause analysis, kappa and all that stuff. But all these days are gone with the invent of lot of technology and whatever is coming in our way. It's more like predictive analytics, okay, which I will discuss on this Sunday or when I talk on AML, applications of AML, like how you can do work on data integrity and predictive analytics, predict the risk much before or much earlier than uh, before or earlier that than that could happen. It is like preempting them before they happen. Okay, that's the order of the day. It's not like you wait for the some things to happen, and once it blows off, then you come back and do all the repair work. Okay, I mean this nobody is going to accept now. So I mean I'll run through the standard document, which I have shown earlier also, but just may run take a brisk walk through the document, because in each sections of the document I'll be discussing very elaborately. Just a second, something went wrong. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So this is 2019 edition, third edition. As for 14971, medical device application of risk management to medical devices. Of course, this is basically ENIS4 document, but nevertheless, don't worry much about whether it's ENIS4 or IS4 document. It talks or it speaks the same. Okay, what I want to focus here, you could see my screen. Okay, where you have here normative references. not many normative references, which includes normative references, includes all country specific regulations, including ISO 13485. Okay, when you come to SOMED, okay, it includes IEC 62304. There will be some references linked to the risk management. But the most important one is the ISO 13485 2016 normative references and country specific regulations. For whatever country you are writing this risk management document, you need to abide by that country specific regulations. Okay, if it is speaking of any risk management. Okay, I know like some of you guys are very good in IMDR. IMDR 2017, that's Indian Medical Device Rules or Regulations. Does it talk about the risk management? Or it directly says like, since ISO 14971 standard, that's a risk management standard is harmonized with IMDR, just follow it? Or does it talk specifically anything about risk management? Pranita? Does IMDR 2017 talks anything about risk management, or it exclusively leaves everything to ISO 14971 standard?
Risk management is mentioned in Schedule 5, sir, in the QMS part of IMDR. But there is no specific mention of risk management.
Yeah, that's true. Like in some schedules and chapters, risk management is mentioned. Yeah, that's a problem with IMDR. It doesn't definitely direct or give concrete directions on, of course, not on risk management, on a lot of other things also. It is such a general document, generalized, very generic document. Okay, but on contrary to that, if you look at EUMDR 2017, see, again, don't take me wrong, I'm not subsiding or underestimating IMDR 2017, but I'm comparing different country regulations. If you look at EUMDR 2017, it very well specifies certain aspects on risk management. Okay, that's why there is a conflict of interest between EUMDR regulations speaking on risk management and ISO 14971, exclusive standard on risk management of medical devices. So there is some disparity and some conflict of interest. That we'll discuss, that's not an issue. Okay. So, I mean, you may get you may be in a fix, or you may be a bit confused, like if there are some regulations, country specific regulations, like I say EUMDR or IMDR or SFDA, MOHAP, or some USFDA regulations, though all of these regulations say that they have harmonized, okay, with ISO 14971 risk management. Harmonized in the sense that like you follow the 14971. But when there is some disparity, okay, or there is some conflict of interest between the risk management that is there in 14971 and country specific regulations, okay, the best way is, what is the best way? To follow 14971 or follow country specific regulations on risk management? What is the best choice? If there is if there are, like, even in UMDR you see, like on one single point they give two different opinions. Okay, which one to follow, either the regulation or the standard. Which side you will go? You'll follow the regulation or the standard? Anybody can answer this? Because I said all regulations have harmonized this 14971 risk management is harmonized with their regulations. But on an 1-to-1 point opinion, if there is some confusion or if there is some differences, which of these we should go for? Go with the regulation or go with the standard? Standard in the sense 149 ISO 1497, regulation in the sense whether it's IMDR or 510K or USFDA or EUMDR.
As per standard, we can follow that regulations are also right, Vijay Sagar. If you go with the standard.
You mean to say that we should go with the standard?
It falls under step by step, we will follow the regulations also.
No, when there is on certain point, if there is a disparity or there is differences between the regulation and the standard, which one we need to take up?
Go with regulations because it's already harmonized with the standard.
Yeah, Pranita is right. Like always, we should go with the regulations because I mean the point here is, I mean it's not something we need to debate. The point here is that since we are applying for certification of that country, okay, they say like though it is harmonized with my regulation, better you follow my regulations than the standard. Okay, it's always good. I have my subjective opinion on that, but the best case scenario could be like go with the regulation, go with the country specific regulations so that you will get the certifications easily. Then having lot of queries coming out or non-compliances saying that why you didn't follow the regulations, why you followed the standard. You will be, I mean, you'll be wasting a lot of time debating with the auditor or the technical reviewer, saying that I followed the standard, my for me standard is a Bible or Bhagavad Gita or Quran. Then he'll ask what these regulations are, these regulations all stupid stuff. You don't follow the regulations, how can you have compliance with the particular country? I mean, particular country regulations, how can you have compliance of your device with a particular country? Okay, so end of the day, it all condenses to better to go with country specific regulations. Of course, I said, no, you don't find so much of differences in every country. Okay, every country regulation, you don't find so much of complexity, except in Europe, except in US. Okay, and sometimes you see this in TGA Australia. Okay, Therapeutic Goods Administration Australia. With those country regulations, you'll find some disparity and you'll find it very prominently in, of course, that will be discovered very prominently in Europe and EMDR. So all normative references are the country specific regulations, ISO 13485 and all that stuff. We'll look at some terms, some definitions, basically what is harm, hazardous situation, what is risk severity, risk probability, risk index, risk controls, risk evaluation, risk analysis, residual risk, okay, effectiveness of risk controls, Everything about risk only, I mean, you'll find in terms and definitions, benefit risk analysis. Okay. That also we'll see. And fourth is like general requirements. You see this, if you see 1, 2, 3, you remember something like it is similarly structured like in ISO 13485. Okay, scope, normative references. Scope here is very important. We'll discuss a lot on this. Normative references, terms and definitions, okay, and glossary. Fourth also seems to be very similar to 13485. General requirements, there we have general requirements for quality management system. Okay, in ISO 13485, here it is general requirements for risk management system. Okay, we'll see total risk management process. I said it's a very simple flow diagram like cascading flow. Starts with harm, hazardous situation. Okay, sorry, it starts with hazard, then comes to hazardous situation, then the harm, then the risk. Okay, then risk analysis, risk evaluation, risk controls. Okay, or risk mitigation, residual risk, acceptance of residual risk, overall residual risk. Okay, and end of the day, risk benefit analysis or benefit risk analysis. Now, when I wrote risk management file 10 years back, people generally used to call risk benefit analysis. Now it became, I mean, it totally like it became different. Like now people are calling benefit risk analysis. Whatever it could be, like we'll understand this process. I said it's cascade goes like that, but we need to understand in each and every point what are the hazards, what is the hazard situation, what is the harm, and in which situations the harm could turn into a risk. Okay, what is this risk analysis? Okay, how you analyze the risk? There are different models to analyze the risk. Simple quantitative, semi-quantitative, hazard analysis, FEMA, process FEMA or design FEMA, and you have a lot of other things also. Then comes evaluation. After you analyze the risk, then you need to evaluate it. Evaluation again comes as what is the risk severity or what is the risk probability. Okay, in some situations, risk detectability. Okay, like in US, they also include one more parameter called risk detectability. In Europe and even in India, we just go with severity and probability. What we call severity into probability is risk index. Okay, severity into probability into detectability. Detectability means how good your risk controls are able to detect the risk. Okay, they include that because detectability talks more on effectiveness of your risk controls. Actually, I like that. Including detectability is a very good idea. That we call RPN, risk probability number. But when you just multiply severity into probability, probability is also called occurrence. It is just called risk index. But when you again add the third parameter, that is detectability of your risk through your risk control, what is the chance that you are able to detect the risk through your risk controls, which obviously means the effectiveness of your risk control. Okay, that speaks a lot. That is called this three, I mean, severity into probability into detectability is called risk probability number. Basically used more in US. Europe and in India and other countries, they use this severity into or probability or occurrence. Okay, but better sometimes go with RPN, risk probability number. So that's on risk evaluation. Once you know the risk evaluation, you need to know like what is your risk severity, probability. Okay, you should know what is your risk index before mitigation, before you have risk controls. What is the severity or occurrence of the risk or probability of the risk before your risk controls. Okay, then after your risk controls, because these are all quantitative, it's not like I use some terminology saying risk is low, risk is moderate, risk is high. No, these have to be quantified. I mean, it has to be absolute numericals. Like severity into probability, it could be 2 into 3, 6. So the risk index is 6. Once you apply risk controls, okay, what is again the risk? Of course, the risk has to come down. If the risk doesn't come down, then what is the fun of having risk controls? Better throw them in dustbin. So your risk controls has to be effective, and they should bring down the risk. So what are the risk controls or risk mitigation options? How effective they are? Of course, I definitely will say that risk controls won't be so foolproof that they could, I mean, they could block any risk. There could be some seep or some which could come out of the risk controls or seep out of the risk controls. It could be because of your, I mean, that's what I say. You need to look at the effectiveness of your risk controls. Either it could be an human error or your protocol errors or your risk control errors or your sampling method errors, or basically if you go back your design errors, you don't have proper design controls, or if you go into the QMS, you don't have any supplier controls, you got the wrong raw material, or you have not done adequate tests in that. If you go into production, see, I'm linking the risks in QMS and also risks in the products. Because in the beginning only I told risk management is not just about the device, it's also about your QMS. Okay, see, if you don't have any supplier controls, okay, design controls, your production controls and all this, end of the day, your technical specifications, during your design transfers, you will get a lot of things on technical specifications because your design outputs translate into design specifications. Okay, those who are in R&D can understand it better. Like, I don't know whether Madhusri is in R&D. Madhu or Leela, those who are in R&D, they understand it. End of the day, the design outputs translate into technical specifications of the product or the device. Sometimes they may go wrong. Okay, so that's why design phase is such a crucial thing. So, I mean, I'm talking like after you implement your risk controls, the risk severity, I can't say no, but after I come to that risk evaluation, I'll tell you the overall risk should come down. Okay, overall risk has to come down once you apply risk controls. Whether severity will come down or probability or occurrence will come down, we'll see. Like, okay, in which cases the severity comes down, in which cases the probability comes. In I mean, at least one of them has to come down. Okay, then you'll have, after that, still you'll have some residual risk. Because there is no device with zero risk. Even a simple cotton, even a non-sterile cotton, or for the matter, sterile cotton will have risk. Okay, and those are low risk devices compared with high risk devices like the implants, or like where Intuitive is working on DaVinci or surgical robotics, all this stuff. They still carry a lot of, I mean, I'm very much worried about the surgical robotics and DaVinci systems. Like they work absolutely through some, I mean, pre-trained ML modules. Okay, and ML modules, I told you, they can have a lot of hallucinations, drifts, black boxes, but they will be done under the monitoring of uh, human monitoring, like under proper, what you call, I forgot the word, under proper governance, like, okay. Uh, so there carries some more risk. And SOMED is such a dangerous device, like a software medical device. We don't know what's going to happen when if it is not properly handled, okay, validated periodically. So end of the day, I mean, we are coming that the risk should come down at any cost after your risk controls. If they are not coming down, then your risk controls are not really working. You need to rework on your risk controls. Okay, then we'll talk of residual risk. And in residual risk, you need to discuss each and every residual risk. It's not like we have risk controls and we have controlled the risk and say that this residual risk doesn't cause any further risk. That's a very wrong statement. You need to explain what this residual risk further when they translate into the clinicals, okay, for that particular intended use. What risk that they can cause to the patient? Of course, they are residual risks, but still, can you bring down the residual risk? Okay, is it possible, like as low as possible? Yeah, that's a very serious question that has to be debated. And how this residual risks are, I mean, transferred or uh, informed to the end user that my device has residual risk. Okay, that's where is the interesting part. We link it with the clinical evaluation report. Okay, whatever adverse events or serious adverse events that are coming, the side effects, whatever you call. Okay, when you correlate the residual risks and these events that are happening in the clinicals or when the device is used, the adverse events or whatever events that are happening not good to the patient, okay, you'll find a very good correlation. Okay, all these side effects, adverse events, serious adverse events, okay, very serious adverse events, okay, are the results of because of the residual risk. Okay. Then after understanding or correlating this residual risk versus the events that are happening in the clinical scenario, how you convey this to the end user, okay, is in the form of the IFU. Okay, in IFU you write all your, you don't write your residual risk, Okay, but you're right that these events could happen. Even I've seen a lot of IFUs where they write even some deaths could happen. Like 10-15 years back when I wrote an IFU, because the clinical evaluation reports, even the clinical data shows that there could be 1% death, and we need to mention it in the IFU, like 1 out of every 100 patients are going to die. Who is that? I don't know. Like, but now with the advancement of technology, that has come down to 0.1%, but still that's very high, which means like out of 1,000, one patient is going to die. Not immediately, over a period of 1 year or 2 years. Okay, I mean, it has to be very genuinely stated that these are some of the issues with my devices because of the residual risk, which I am not able to still bring it down. These are translating into so and so events, and these events I mean providing you in the form of IFU. I'm conveying this to you in the form of IFU. In now IFU, how you convey this? Because there are different modes, like different categories, how you convey this. Like we give them as warnings. Okay, we give them as precautions. We give them as contraindications. Okay, all the side effects, adverse events, all this stuff, we give in these 3-4 categories. Okay, these are the warnings of my device that these events could happen. And we also tell these are the precautions which you need to take. If you don't take these precautions, these events could happen. Contraindications are certainly something which says that please don't use these devices in these patients. It is contraindicated. Don't use in children, don't use in geriatrics, like patients who are above 60 years or 70 years. Don't use in pregnant women, don't use in geriatrics, don't use in some special population, don't use in people who are allergic to this. It's a contraindication. So how this has traveled, like from risk management, it condenses to residual risk. Residual risk, you are correlating with the adverse events. Okay, or some events that are not good to the patient, could be side effects, events, serious. Okay, and that you are conveying it to the end user. For us, the end user is not the patient. For us, the end user is the doctor. Because we are not selling OTC products over the counter. Of course, we do sell some medical devices are sold over the counter. Oh, but for high risk category, where there is high risk, even the residual risk carry high risk. Okay, we convey them in the form of IFU. As I said, 3-4 categories will be provided. Warning, precautions, contraindication, that this. But the worst case is nobody, I've never seen an doctor or anyone reading the IFU. Of course, I know that they are very well versed in using, I mean, very trained in using the device, but still, I mean, they don't care for the IFU, they just throw it in the bin. Okay, all this we'll be studying here. Analysis, how we do the analysis, intended use, foreseeable misuse. Okay, again, this is if there is a misuse. There are 3-4 things where you need to take cognizant of this. Intended use is fine. If there is a reasonably foreseeable misuse, okay. The other is reuse of devices. Okay, the other is off-label use. Okay, I'll discuss this more categorically. What is foreseeable, reasonably foreseeable misuse? Okay, in that case, what happens to the risk of the device if there is off-label use? Okay, because you have indicated the device for certain uh, surgeries or for treating certain ailments or certain diseases. But off-label use is they use it for a different purpose, not really indicated in your IFU or intended to be used as required. Okay, that's misuse. There is, reuse of devices happens like, though we tell them, though we say it's a single use, they reuse them. If there are risks that come out of reuse or off-label use, misuse, okay, and user error, if the user has done something wrong, and it leads to some risk or complaint. In this situation, there are 4-5 peculiar situations, how we are going to handle it. Okay, who has to take the accountability? Okay, of all these 3-4 scenarios of misuse, of label use, unforeseeable misuse, okay, and reuse. Reuse, because they re-sterilize and use it 10-15 times, though we say it's a single use. That time it may fail on second or third time, or at any time it may fail. The device may fail. But to make a one-line statement in all these cases, okay, the manufacturer will be held responsible. Okay, you can debate with me why the manufacturer should be held responsible if there is misuse, if there is an user error, if there is off-label use, or if there is anything other than what you have written in IFU, that guy is not doing that. And every risk or complexity or complaint is happening because of all these three things. Why is the manufacturer responsible? I'll explain you. But okay, as per UMDR regulations, the manufacturer is responsible, not as per IMD, not as per ISO 14971. Yeah, that's a difference. One of the difference between, like I said, IFU can't be a risk control document. Okay, sometimes, you need to remove IFU. I'll tell you all that stuff. What are basic risk control documents that come hierarchically? What should be the first line of risk control, second line, and third line? Risk control documents. It's not like you adopt risk controls as you like. Don't keep IFU as first risk control. Okay, IFU comes as the last risk control document. The first risk controls are something much deeper or inherent by design. Second is production and post-production. The third is the IFU, the training, all that stuff, which we'll discuss. Okay, that's on risk control options, risk benefit analysis, residual risk, which I already discussed. Completeness of risk control. See, this is very tricky. Like we do the effectiveness of risk controls, then at some point we say, or I'm looking at completeness of risk controls, like do I have total risk control implemented, risk controls implemented, even in the worst case scenario, my device won't fail, or my device won't carry so much of risk. Okay, the completeness of risk, that's what we say. That's why we need to write in the risk management report about each and every individual risk, okay, or combination of the residual risk. Okay, each and individual residual risk you need to explain. This individual risk could lead to what? And in combination, if this residual risk, okay, have an additive effect or amplifying effect or some synergic effect, like, you know what is synergic effect? Okay, additive effect, amplify effect, then what could be the overall combined residual risk? What could be uh, the safety of the patient? Okay, because I have seen this, like I have seen uh, of course I have seen a lot of deaths that are happened with devices, mainly implantables. Okay, I mean, some of them happened just before my eyes because I used to travel to a lot of operation theaters or cath labs. So, it's not because of one residual risk that happens, it's a combination of 2, 3 risks combined together will become worse. Like it will have a synergic effect where 1 plus 1 becomes 3 or more than 3. It's 1 plus 1 is not 2, it's not maths. Okay, it's 2 or 3, that's called synergic. If it is additive, still it's a problem. 1 plus 1 is 2. But if it becomes more, it have. So you need to look at, this is what I'm talking, pointed. Evaluation of overall residual risk. Then end of the day, we'll do the risk management review. No, not this. We'll do the risk benefit risk analysis. Okay, and the interesting point is like risks arising from risk control measures. Are your risk control measures, okay, causing new risks? This basically happens not in all, like in production and post-production controls or in IFU and others, but risk controls mainly linked it, I mean, focused on the design stages. Okay, because to control the risk, some of the parameters are, we make some design changes to control the risk as a part of risk control process or option. We make some design changes, but while you're doing the design changes, what happens is the design change, what you anticipated, that will bring down the risk. Okay, it will add another new risk. It may not be the old risk. Of course, the old risk would have come down or it is mitigated. But when you're doing this, controlling the risk through design, there could be a chance that there will be a new risk that could develop or the new risks that could arise. Okay, I mean, this I have seen it like where you're trying to design it, but this all has to be done in simulations only. It's not like you do all DOEs or trial and errors and keep experimenting on patients. Okay, this all happen in prototypes, a lot of design of experiments, simulation experiment. Of late, we have a lot of computer simulations, in vitro simulations, in silico simulations. Okay, digital twin validations, all that stuff. So you can easily understand that whether this change control is arising to new risk. Or in sometimes what happens is when you're trying to control some risk, okay, for the safety of the patient. I mean, it do happens, your performance also comes down. the performance of the device comes down because the reason is like on one parameter, okay, on basically on one or two parameters lies both the risk and the performance, or the safety and performance lies on one parameter. If you increase one, okay, the other will decrease. Like if I want to increase the performance of the device, okay, parallelly, I mean, the risk may also increase. Okay, if I want to bring down the risk, parallelly, the performance also may come down. Because they are sitting on the same parameter, like it could be anything like the thickness of the device or longitudinal stiffness of the device or surface finish of the device. Okay, that could be, I mean, based on the device, you can look on the recoil of the device, or I mean, based on the device, I can tell you a lot of things where the performance and the risk, or the say performance and the risk sit on the same parameter. Okay, if you touch it, I mean, it will create a havoc. Okay, I mean, during that situation, you need to find a fine balance, like without decreasing the performance of the device, how you can bring down the risk. Are there any other secondary factors, or you want to keep the risk as such? Okay, so there is a lot of thinking that goes on. And end of the day, as I said, we go to production and post-production activities. Post-production activities are very, very important. Like I said, all the PMS activities, starting from your simple customer feedbacks, okay, complaints, your COPPA, your PSU or PMCF, your trend analysis, okay, your comparative, uh, what you call predictive analytics, and your comparative complaint or risk, mainly the comparative risk profile of your device with your competitor. Okay, whether your competitor has more complaints and risks than your device at the same marketing use or marketing time, provided the demographics or the risk factors of the patients are same. Because I mean, I know like based on the demographics and risk factors, there will be a lot of disparity in the clinical outcomes. Okay, so the risk factors are more for the patient. Obviously, the device will encounter a lot of threshold. It may not perform so great compared to the devices where you have very conducive or less risk factors, and demographics of the patients are good. Okay, like for young adults, those who are, I mean, not exposed to this or exposed to this devices for the first time. So you'll find a lot of disparity. Still, you need to do this comparison. And this is very mandatory. I mean, you need to keep an eye on your computer device, how it's performing, or your competitor has the same complaints like your device, or your device encountering new complaints, different type of complaints or different types of adverse events compared to your competitor. If it's having different adverse events, different type of complaints, then what has been seen with your competitor, then there is a serious problem with your device. Okay, because both devices are similar, same intended use, technical, biological, clinical equivalence is the same. Then why your device is having new complaints or different type of complaints? where your predicate doesn't have. Of course, there is a lot of other things that could contribute, but it's a topic or it's something that needs to be looked at a very microscopic level, dive deep and see, because new complaints should not arise. If it is a regular complaint, you can, I mean, still it's serious, but you can control it. But it's something new, not seen, which comes which comes as a first time, seen for the first time, then that's something which has to be reported. Because if this trend continues, like every time you're getting new complaints, which are linked to the risk, then that gives a very bad taste to the market. Okay, this is on production and post-production activities. We'll discuss. So on all this except the top three, we'll discuss 4, 5 general requirements. I'll share a lot of documentation on risk management process plan. Okay, of course, I'll share on risk management report or the files on risk management. Risk analysis, we'll discuss risk evaluation, risk controls, residual risk. Okay, residual risk benefit analysis, risk arising from risk controls, completeness of risk controls, or verification of risk controls. I think that's somewhere it is there, verification of risk controls. Evaluation of overall residual risk, this I told, risk management review, production and post-production. Okay, this is all about, this could be some, I think some 80 or 90 pages, I don't know. But you can't read all of this. Without time, you can read this. But I'll make it short for you and make you understand. See, I've given an overview on risk management, some thought process, something to think, some points to think of. Okay, and very important points on risk controls and residual risk, because these two are very, very important. What are your risk controls? And later, once you apply risk controls, whether the risks are coming down, when they come down, what are your residual risks? See, residual risks, as you know pretty well, before and after applying risk controls, whatever risks remain are called residual risks. And I told you how it is interconnected to clinical evaluation and to the IFU and all that stuff. And in between comes the usability engineering, like the user errors. Of course, there's very little that comes in biological evaluation. Okay. So all this we'll discuss. No, not in this document. I have prepared separate notes for you. This is important, how you identify hazards and other situations. Because you can have hundreds of risk control measures. End of the day, they should be able to control them, mitigate them. . 。   . 。  . 。 . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . It is like risk having some risk control measures. Evaluation of overall residual risk. Okay, with this, I'll stop here. And see, tomorrow, how many of you are attending AML sessions? Madhu, you are attending? I think Madhusri is sleeping. See, if you attend tomorrow, I'll take AML session. Leela, you'll be attending. Pranita,
Yes, Sagar.
Madhusri,
Yes, sir.
Pranita will attend, I think. Pranita, you'll occupied on Sunday.
No, sir. I will be attending.
You'll be there.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Where is Majid? This guy comes and disappears. Aman, you are joining? Okay, whoever joins, but I hope like you guys join because we'll also in uh, AML and medical device because I mean in last 1.5 months I have seen a lot of I mean lot of things happening in AML mainly in medical devices and a lot of companies are adopting them. Okay, I mean it's happening so quickly when I am in hospital. Okay, I think I should not be in hospital. Like when I'm in hospital, a lot of things are happening outside. So we'll focus more on the implementation strategy. Straight away, I'll brush up on whatever we learned on supervised, unsupervised learning. I mean, agenetic, genetic, that's not important, autonomous, but mainly supervised, unsupervised, supervised learning, NLP, computer vision, some topics on rig and uh, random forest, okay, and generative AI, something on some important things on generative AI. The supervised, unsupervised, however, I'll make you understand, recall on all that. Of course, you listen to them because supervised and supervised are very important for us, mainly in the application in our medical devices. Of course, generative AI used in certain regulatory process and PMS. But this random forest, okay, neuronal networks, CNN neuronal networks, of course, generative AI, and a little bit of genetic AI agents I'll touch. And importantly, I want you to do some hands-on experience, to work on hands-on experience with the ML models. Okay, straight away, maybe tomorrow or the next class, we'll start like whatever we'll learn, we'll immediately switch to hands-on experience using AI models. That too on ML Azure, like Microsoft ML Azure is a very uh, safe and uh, more like dependable models, dependable platform, and the models, ML models in that ML Azure mostly will. I mean, I worked earlier a lot on these ML models in ML Azure platform only, Microsoft ML Azure. Of course, I'll show them on Colab and other platforms. Okay. Uh, Even working on Python, as I said, now we won't be learning any coding language. We'll be only using for the applications. Once we have the data, of course, as I said, we don't be using any confidential data. Some data where we can pick up from Kaggle or some data. There's a lot of sites where you can pick up some data just to practice. Okay, I'll tell you like how to convert this data into CSV and how to upload the data and train the data. Okay, then generally we train 80% of the data, then test. Once we train the data, we'll get some outcomes of the training, mainly on the precision, accuracy, verbosity, all that stuff. See, I mean, why I'm saying this is once you start doing it, no, you feel addicted to it. Otherwise, I mean, if I keep on lecturing this, it will become like another Durandar movie or some other movie which will be interesting, but nothing to play. So once you start using that, yeah, I know like initially a lot of things go wrong, you will get stuck up. Then 80% data we'll use for training. I mean, that's normal. And 20% data we'll use it for testing, like how the trained data is giving the test reports. If you have new data, you can start testing that on anything. Like I gave you a lot of classical examples on classification, regressions, neuronal networks, random forests, NLP or computer vision. I mean, we have something like 12 to 15 models. Okay. Then after working on those models, we will look at even we'll work on some generative AI models. Okay, generative AI are not such a difficult thing, but I'll tell you how to write prompts for those, how to write the right prompts. Okay, it's not just ChatGPT. ChatGPT is one of the worst. Okay, of late you have a lot of pre-trained transducer models, generative transducer models. Of course, I mean, what we generally see is GTP, Gemini, and other things, but there are still better models where you can use ChatGPT. Of course, you can use it for some, I mean, getting some information, very general information, or some research information, some other things, very handy. But there are some exclusively for doing getting into some regulatory work or research work, some generative models, generative AI. Okay, then we'll also touch something on not agentic AI. Of course, I mean, like Google has come out with totally autonomous agentic AI. This is Gemini Spark. It's total autonomous, like it does 24 into 7 work, though you shut down your laptop or you sleep. Okay, they have launched some 2-3 days back or a couple of days back. But we won't be working on that model. Like we'll only look at the use of AI agents because AI agents are nothing new. Like a combination of already existing ML models when they are integrated together. Like I integrate NLP with logistic regression and with the classification, then neuronal network. This will become an AI agent. Okay, where it performs multiple tasks and you can make it autonomous or you can make it, I mean, you can have them under your command. So why I'm saying that we need to move fast is, of course, we have wasted some time in that. But I have been in hospital. I'm reading a lot on what's happening on ground stage. I see that these things are happening very fast. Okay, I mean, I'm not telling you from day one you need to adopt. As soon as you learn, you need to adopt in your companies. But you can spend an hour or half an hour at your home, okay, or at least 15-20 minutes at your home, like plug and play type. Take out some data and see how you can train it. After training, you see how the uh, outcomes of that training, the precision, accuracy, ROC, AUC are coming in. Or you can still check out whether I can train them better to have better accuracy, precisions without drifting. As I already said that uh, we need data, and I don't say huge data, we need huge data. At least a good amount of data should be fine. And but too much data is also a problem because there will be overfitting problems, and very less data you'll have underfitting problems. So both of them are bad. Like overfitting gives issues, underfitting gives problems. So we need to have very real world data, not control data, real world data. Maybe from your QC data can be used, your clinical data can be used, a lot of data from yours can be used, but we don't use your confidential data. We'll pick up from some already existing data from Kaggle or something, and we'll start using ML Azure or Microsoft, or in some we can use Amazon AWS also. Colab is very free. AWS is free for 1 year. Okay. AWS is free. So I mean, Amazon AWS. AWS is mainly for sentiment analysis and find recurring words. I think we also discussed on the generative AI, like how this, how it works, mainly the tokenization of the words, how the phrases are split up into words, and how the uh, words with similar meaning give the same responses, and how to work on the prompts, like what this governance means. And also will also, because I said now in healthcare system we need to be very vigilant on using AML. What this governance means, what is this hybrid intelligence, accountability on this. Okay, of course we'll be learning on what are the drawbacks with these models, how to work on the drawbacks on this hallucinations or drifts. Of course, there are a lot of plans. We'll also work and discuss something on cybersecurity aspects. Okay, because once you train the model, if the model is changed or hacked, then everything will be a big disaster. Okay, mainly for diagnostic equipment. I'll explain you very categorically. Some diagnostic equipment pre-trained models are hacked and algorithms are changed that will give false positive or false negative results in diagnosis. So that is very dangerous. Like how we can combat that changing of the algorithms or the codes. I mean, not in depth, but very superficially on what this cybersecurity means, how that can be adopted. Okay. Mainly on SOMED, it will be very, very useful. More applications on SOMED. And of course, a lot of applications, not only in QARA and also, but also on the design and development aspects. Even the PMS also, you find a lot of applications of AML. We'll see, like, but we'll start maybe next week or the other week, we'll start using the actual ML models in Azure. I mean, just to open up some models and see how it works. Okay, it's not so difficult. Once you start, I mean, you yourself will keep learning a lot. Okay, couple of them are menu guided. You need to read it and work on it. So tomorrow I will take up on AML. First we'll refresh on that. I will rebrush you on whatever we have learned. And later I'll try to collect a lot of data for you for training the models. Different types of models, starting from simple classification, logistic regressions. So of course, I'll tell you the principles behind that in tomorrow's class. What are the principles? Because you can't work blind because there is a model you adopt that. You need to understand the principle behind that, how it works. Okay, not the coding part, not the language part, but what is the logic or what is the rationale for it, on what basis it takes decisions or how it comes out with conclusions. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm ending it 10 minutes before because I still need some calories to speak for 3 hours. Maybe by next week I'll gain a lot of strength. I'm taking a lot of energy drinks. Let's see how it will be. Any doubts? Of course, I said no. I mean, like risk management, gave you an categorical perspective on how things look like, and each of one of them will be learning. Maybe in next 2 classes, we'll be learning on how to write the risk management plan. Okay, how the report looks like. Then we'll start with hazard. What are the hazards? Different hazards, hazard situations. Then with risk analysis, risk evaluation, risk controls. Okay, residual risk, completeness of residual risk or verification of risk controls, overall residual risk, linkage with clinicals. Okay, how that can be again redrawn into IFU. From that risk to the PMS, how we are going to link it up, how we loop it back to the risk management again. Okay. Oh, thank you. Take care. See you tomorrow. If you have any doubts, you can post it on WhatsApp or you can call me because next 1 week I'll be at home taking rest. Fine.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, bye.